Are you ready for camping?
Yup. I've got my 6-person tent with its inner and outer shells, the piece of fabric it's put on, the poles for the frames, and of course the extra waterproof part. I also have a mallet and some pegs for securing corners and all the other complementary items.
Are you sure that's not going to be just a little bit heavy?
No, it's fine. Wait, do you have a better idea?
Yes, I do.
Chairperson,
Honorable judges,
friends, family,
and fellow 4-H members.
my name is Jacque.
And my name is Sophie Jollivet.
Let's be happy campers! Today, we will be showing you how to set up a tarp shelter.
With a shelter, you can be protected from harsh weather, extreme temperatures, and rain.
But tents can be bulky and quite heavy. Tarps, on the other hand, are smaller and are easier to work with if you happen to be alone.
The equipment you need for the best, quick, and easy shelter is a tarp and paracord, or other strong and flexible rope.
Do you really think you can make a shelter out of a tarp? How would it even stay up? It sounds like a bad idea.
Well, that's where our rope comes in. More specifically, the power of knots.
The knots we will be using to create this shelter are the bowline knot, the trucker's hitch, the halter hitch, and the taut line hitch. The tarp setup that we will be showing you consists of a ridge line across the top between 2 trees, and then cords at each of the 4 corners of the tarp to secure it down.
When choosing a location, some of the things to consider are
The levelness of the ground,
whether or not water will pool or run there,
whether it's on a hiking path or a game trail,
and which way the wind tends to be blowing, since you want the more open sides of your setup to be more naturally protected.
Wait a minute. Open sides? Where's my mosquito protection? And what do you mean game trails? How is a tarp supposed to protect me from a bear?
Well, in terms of mosquitoes, but also overcoming adversity leads to personal growth. And in terms of bears, it's a bear. Do you honestly expect a tent to do any better?
Fair enough.
Since our ridgeline needs to be very tight, there are 2 different knots needed to secure the cord, as well as to have its tightness adjustable. We start with our bowline knot, which is super strong and is special, as it creates a fixed loop at the end of the rope. This loop won't cinch tight when pulled, and this will be where our tree can anchor.
To explain how to tie this knot, we will be telling you a knot time story. Once upon a time, there was a loop created on the ridgeline side of the rope with the piece feeding towards the tree on top. This loop was in fact not a loop, but the rabbit hole of our very own Mr. Bunny. Mr. Bunny, also known as the tail end of the rope, comes up out of his hole, takes a scenic trip around the soon-to-be ridgeline, and then goes back down into his hole. Pull tight on Mr. Bunny, and your knot will be secured.
On the other side of the ridgeline, we need something that we can crank as tight as possible. For this, we will be using a trucker's hitch.
Is there a knot time story for this one too?
To secure this knot, we will again start by looping your tail end around the tree. Pulling all of the excess cord from the line to make the tail. Starting on your ridgeline side about 2 feet from the tree, create a slip loop, adjustable from the tail. Then take said tail end from the other side of your tree, pulling it through your slip loop, and tighten.
Making sure to pull parallel to the rest of the rope and not out at a strange angle.
With the positioning of the rope, there is a 3-to-1 advantage, meaning that the force with which you pull to tighten is tripled. Once you get your rope as tight as you would like, pinch where the two ropes connect and make a halter hitch. To do this, fold your tail end in half and loop it around the side of your ridgeline closer to the tree. Pull it in right beside you or your friend's fingers and tighten.
Now this knot is tied, but if I were to pull on the tail end, it would all come undone. So we have one more step to make sure our shelter doesn't fall down on us while we sleep.
Make a loop out of what's left of your tail end and pass it over top of the loop on your halter hitch, causing the end feeding into the tail to now be trapped underneath. After cinching this down, your ridgeline is complete.
Next, we need to secure the corners.
The grommets on the tarp can be secured to paracord with a bowline knot. But if there are no grommets, or that part of the tarp has broken off, a strong anchor can be created by taking a small rock or even a pine cone and wrapping it within the tarp. Securing a knot at the base of the object around the tarp will create a very strong anchor.
The other end of this cord can be attached to an anchor using a taut line hitch. This anchor can be any immovable object, whether it is a large log, a stump, or a tree.
The taut line hitch is a type of friction hitch, which makes it very useful for situations where you want to be able to change the tension often.
To tie a taut line hitch, start by passing the rope around an anchor point, running the tail end parallel to its secured end. Then, coil the tail end around the secured end twice, each time looping back towards the anchor point. Make a third coil around the secured end, this time on the opposite side of the two coils you just made. Dress the knot, removing any kinks or twists in the rope.
You know what they say, a not neat knot is a knot not needed.
I don't get it.
Oh, never mind.
Cinch this knot down and it will be secured. This knot can be slid to tighten or loosen the standing line.
Do this at each of the 4 corners of your tarp, pulling the cords away from the tarp at a 45-degree angle. And there you have it, a strong and sturdy, yet also lightweight and easy to set up shelter.
Let's quickly look back at everything we talked about today.
We went over the benefits of using a tarp shelter instead of a tent,
We went over our very minimal equipment.
a tarp, and some rope,
We discussed what to think about when choosing a location.
remembering level ground without water exposure and staying away from game trails.
We showed the power of 4 different knots.
The bowline, the trucker's hitch, the halter hitch, and the taut line hitch.
And we demonstrated how to use these knots to create a tarp shelter.
So do you think that maybe I might have had the better idea? I'd say it definitely beats lugging 100 pounds of equipment.
Maybe. I'll have to think about it.
Thank you, Chairperson.